The Green Report here with 7 environmental news stories you may have missed in October 2021. Let's dive in. Number 1, Southern California oil spill. Quote, at least 126,000 gallons of crude oil have gushed from a pipeline just 5 miles off the Southern California coast on Sunday, October 3rd, wreaking still unknown devastation on local wetlands and fouling Huntington Beach. Dead fish and birds are already washing up on shore. The toxic slick caused by the pipeline rupture spanned 8,320 acres, officials have stated, and while the leak appears to have stopped, crews have been unable to fix the pipeline. It has also infiltrated the Talbot Marsh wetland, threatening numerous bird species. And it's not just the tar itself, there is the smell and the fact that more and more oil will come to shore as oil spills are very difficult to clean up completely. This is the largest spill in recent California history, as beaches were closed due to the contamination, as the beaches will most likely be closed for months. Quote, the spill is suspected to have originated in a 17.5-mile pipeline located 80 to 100 feet beneath the surface off the Orange County coast. The pipeline connects to an oil production platform named Illy, which in turn is connected by a walkway to a drilling platform named Ellen. The platforms and another nearby platform are in federal waters and are owned by the Houston-based company Amplify Energy Corporation. And as an update, beaches reopened on October 11th as, quote, officials say that they have recovered at least 5,544 gallons of oil and 13.6 barrels of tar balls. They say in a worst-case scenario, more than 131,000 gallons may have spilled into the waters. Number 2, Cyclone Shaheen hits the Middle East. Also on October 3rd, Cyclone Shaheen hit the Middle Eastern country of Oman with warnings of flooding in Iran and the UAE. Cyclone Shaheen hit lands with winds up to 93 miles per hour, killing at least 13 people. Quote, authorities in Oman said they found the body of a man who disappeared when floodwaters swept him away from his vehicle. On Sunday, as the storm made landfall, a child drowned and 2 foreigners from Asia also died in a landslide. The National Committee for Emergency Management announced on Monday afternoon 7 additional deaths from the storm without elaborating. Thousands were evacuated as rushing floodwaters deluged the dry and harsh lands. Number 3. Biden to restore national monuments. Back in the United States, quote, President Biden will restore full protection to 3 national monuments shrunk by the previous administration, which had also opened the sacred lands up for coal and uranium mining as well as oil drilling. Bears Ears and the Grand Staircase Escalante cover vast expanses of southern Utah, where red rocks reveal petroglyphs and cliff dwellings. The Trump administration had cut Bears Ears in his administration on lands considered sacred to Indigenous peoples by 85% and slashed Grand Staircase Escalante by nearly half. This story really showcases that without regulation and protection, many sacred and untouched landscapes will be exploited for profit, with no regard to future generations and the local ecosystem of these protected lands. Number 4, record number of visitors to national parks. Over the summer, record numbers of people visited national parks, enough to set an overall record. This is due to experts claiming that because of COVID-19, many more people are deciding to head outdoors and explore the wilderness. Quote, Yellowstone National Park set a record for visits in August, the National Park Service said in a news release. The park hosted 921,000 recreational visits in August, and it was a 4.5 increase compared with August 2020, just a year ago. Through the end of August 2021, Yellowstone saw 3.5 million visits. That's on track for a yearly record of a 40% increase over 2020, when the park was affected by pandemic travel restrictions and briefly closed. And as an update as I was making this, more data came out about September numbers, and they state, quote, After setting an attendance record in August of more than 920,000 recreational visitors, it set a record for September as well. That number is 882,000 recreational visits, a National Park Service news release said. It's a 5% increase from September 2020. So far in 2021, Yellowstone has seen 4.4 million recreational visits, up 32% from the same period in 2020. Experts compare it, citing it's as if the entire state of Oregon visited Yellowstone and invited more than 200,000 friends. Also, to make matters more interesting, with more people, there are more rescues reported. For example, quote, 2021 has been the busiest year in recorded history for search and rescue crews in Zion National Park, located in Utah. So far this year, there have been more than 160 major search and rescues. Typically, they see around 110 in a year. And in the past 4 months alone, there have been 5 deaths reported. So, just an interesting trend when it comes to people flocking to outdoor activities in reference to COVID-19 consequences and its effect on society. Number 5, Indigenous protesters want Biden to declare a climate emergency. On October 11th, Indigenous Peoples Day, quote, hundreds of protesters led by Indigenous activists from across the country demonstrated in front of the White House on Monday to demand that Joe Biden stop approving fossil fuel projects and declare the climate crisis a national emergency. The rally marks the start of 5 days of demonstrations calling for greater attention to climate injustices as Native American leaders and tribal members head to the Capitol to publicize their demands. The demonstrations are part of People versus Fossil Fuel protest, organized by a coalition of groups known as Build Back Fossil Free, who are urging the Biden administration to take further action to reduce carbon produced in fossil fuel projects. While Biden has promised to listen to the science and treat the climate crisis like a, quote, existential threat, he has continued to pursue drilling initiatives that could ramp up the United States' greenhouse gas emissions and intensify planetary warming. Number 6, California fires and winds. In mid-October, the Alisal Fire near Santa Barbara, California, burst into 8,000 acres, threatening homes, businesses, and Highway 101. Dry vegetation and high winds were to blame, as the, quote, the Alisal Fire comes as California is grappling with a devastating fire season, including 10 active major fires, according to the National Interagency Fire Center. The largest is the massive Dixie Fire, which has consumed nearly 1 million acres since it sparked on July 13th. That fire is now 94% contained. Overall, the state has witnessed 7,883 fires this year, which has scorched nearly 2.5 million acres, according to CAL FIRE. Scientists predict there will be a La Niña event 2 years in a row, which will continue to worsen the drought and create favorable conditions for wildfires in the western United States, as well as continue water issues. And to add more concern and alarm, data was just released that determined that California had its driest year since 1924. Between October 1st, 2020 and September 30th, 2021, the average precipitation across the state's weather stations was less than half of the historical average, with examples like Lake Tahoe recording its lowest water levels in 4 years. Water levels fell to the basin's natural rim for the first time since 2017, the end of the state's last drought, citing that Lake Tahoe has dropped 3 feet between June 2020 to June 2021. And lastly, number 7, bomb cyclone hits the West Coast, aka Whiplash weather. And because we now live in a world of extremes, quote, a Category 5 bomb cyclone or atmospheric river dumped historic amounts of precipitation across much of Northern California Sunday, October 24th, creating dangerous flooding and landslide conditions in the regions scarred by recent wildfires. The atmospheric river dumped more than 5.35 inches of rain on Sacramento, the capital, on October 24th, the most in a 24-hour period since record-keeping began during 1877. Other locations at higher elevations were expected to see even more precipitation. As much as 2 feet of snow were expected in the Sierra Nevada. Flooding was also reported across the Bay Area. Even though the amount of rainfall is good for the drought conditions, this historic rainfall event will not help the western United States out of its historic drought. We would need to see more of these storms consistently over the winter months. Thank you for watching this recap of October environmental news stories, with next month focusing on the COP26 climate conference and the lackluster pledges with no strings attached future of the climate crisis. So basically, don't be surprised if nothing continues to happen with the Paris Climate Accords. It doesn't have any teeth, as historians would say. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and see you soon for the next recap. Stay safe.